At our party, my girlfriend looked me in the eyes and said, "You'll never be good enough for me," in front of everyone. I smiled, grabbed my keys, and left. Hours later, her friend texted me what she said after I was gone. "I'm a 29-year-old senior software architect at a Fortune 500 financial services company, pulling in $180,000 a year with equity packages that most people would kill for. Until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had my life figured out. I'd been with Jessica for 4 years, and we'd built what I believed was a solid relationship based on mutual respect and shared goals. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party. She was working in marketing for a tech startup, ambitious and driven. I respected her determination to climb the corporate ladder. Within 6 months, we were living together in a high-end apartment downtown. I was covering about 70% of our $3,200 monthly rent because her startup salary was unpredictable. But I didn't mind. I thought we were building something real together. The night everything exploded was supposed to be a celebration. Her company, TechFlow Solutions, had just closed a $2.3 million deal with a major client, and Jessica wanted to throw a party at our apartment. I spent the entire Saturday cleaning, setting up, arranging catering, and making sure every detail was perfect. She'd invited about 30 people from her work, plus some mutual friends. I was in the kitchen around 9 p.m., refilling the ice buckets and checking on the catered food, when I heard Jessica's voice cutting through the music. Honestly, I don't know why I'm still with him. I froze, a bag of ice in my hands. She was standing on our balcony with 3 of her coworkers, drinks in hand, clearly thinking they were having a private conversation. One of them, a woman I recognized as Lisa from accounting, said, "Come on, he seems really nice, and this place is gorgeous." Jessica laughed, but it wasn't the warm laugh I'd fallen in love with. It was cold, calculating. Nice doesn't pay for a lifestyle like this. Nice doesn't get you into the rooms that matter in this industry. I need someone who matches my energy, you know? Someone who's actually going places, not just comfortable in their little tech bubble. I stood there, ice melting against my palms, processing what I was hearing. This woman I'd supported financially and emotionally for 4 years, whose career ambitions I'd encouraged and funded, was describing me like I was some kind of dead weight. Then she saw me through the glass doors. Our eyes locked for maybe 2 seconds. She didn't look embarrassed or apologetic. She looked annoyed that I'd overheard her conversation. I walked over calmly, set the ice down on the patio table next to their group, and that's when she decided to make it official. "You'll never be good enough for me," she said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. The conversations around us died instantly. I could feel 30 pairs of eyes on us, watching this humiliation unfold in real time. My chest felt tight, but I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break down in front of her colleagues and our friends. I smiled, not a happy smile, just something to keep my face from showing what I really felt. "Maybe you're right," I said softly. Then I grabbed my keys from the kitchen counter and walked out. I drove for 3 hours that night, windows down, no music, just processing what had happened. I checked into a Hampton Inn near the airport around midnight, turned off my phone, and stared at the ceiling until exhaustion finally took over around 4 a.m. When I woke up the next morning, my phone showed 47 missed calls and 127 text messages. Most were from Jessica, a mixture of fake apologies and angry demands that I come home to talk like adults. Several were from friends who'd been at the party, asking if I was okay or trying to mediate. I ignored all of them except one. Natalie Brooks, one of Jessica's college friends who'd always treated me with genuine respect, had sent a simple message. "Hey, I know you probably don't want to talk to anyone right now, but I think you should know something. Can I call you?" I texted back. "Not ready to talk. Just text me whatever it is." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Finally. "You know what she said after you left?" My stomach dropped. "What?" Her reply came 30 seconds later. She said, "Good. Now I don't have to break up with him before the trip to Monaco. Brandon's going to be so much easier to deal with." I read that message 3 times. Brandon Mitchell, Jessica's boss at TechFlow. The guy she'd been working late nights with for the past 6 months, supposedly mentoring her on client relations. The guy who was apparently taking her to Monaco. I sat on the edge of that hotel bed for 20 minutes, staring at my phone. Then I did something I'm not proud of. But I'm not sorry for either. I logged into our shared iCloud account, the one we used for photos and household documents. Jessica had never changed the password. Her birthday plus TechFlow23. I found a folder labeled Work Travel. Inside were dozens of photos spanning the last 9 months. Jessica and Brandon in Miami at what was supposedly a client conference. Jessica and Brandon in New York at a marketing summit. Jessica and Brandon in what was clearly an expensive hotel room in San Francisco. Champagne glasses on the nightstand, his arm around her waist, both in matching bathrobes. I screenshot everything, organized the files by date, and started building a timeline. The pattern was obvious once I looked for it. Every work trip Jessica had taken in the past 9 months had included Brandon. Every late night at the office, every weekend team building session. I'd been funding her affair with my rent money and emotional support. But I'm not just a software architect. I'm the senior architect who designed fraud detection systems for one of the largest banks in the country. My job is analyzing patterns, finding discrepancies, and building airtight cases with data. Jessica had just become my latest project. I spent the next 3 days in that hotel room, ordering delivery and methodically planning my next moves. First, I called David Reyes, a lawyer I'd worked with on some contract negotiations at my company. He specialized in relationship dissolution and employment law. I need to understand my options, I told him during our Monday morning call. Apartment lease, shared assets, and potential workplace affair implications. David walked me through everything. The apartment lease was in both our names, but I had been paying $2,240 of our $3,200 monthly rent for the past 2 years. All the furniture, the $4,500 sectional sofa Jessica had insisted we needed, the $2,800 smart TV setup, the $1,200 espresso machine. I had receipts for 80% of everything in that apartment. Document everything, David advised. Bank statements, receipts, text messages. If there's an affair involving her supervisor, that could get interesting from an HR perspective, especially if company resources were involved. I spent Tuesday going through 2 years of financial records, credit card statements showing I'd paid for her portion of rent 23 times when she was between commission checks. Venmo transactions where she'd requested money for our shared expenses that turned out to be her personal shopping trips. Text messages where she'd asked me to cover just this once for everything from her car payment to her gym membership. I built spreadsheets, I created timelines. I cross-referenced her work travel dates with her social media posts and the photos I'd found. The pattern was undeniable and thoroughly documented. Wednesday afternoon, I went back to the apartment. Jessica was sitting on the couch with red, puffy eyes, still wearing the same clothes from the party. The place was still a disaster. Empty bottles, plates with half-eaten food, red wine stains on the carpet I'd paid to have professionally cleaned just last month. "Where have you been?" she demanded, jumping up. "I've been worried sick. You just disappeared without saying anything." I set my bag down calmly. "Have you been worried, or have you been planning your trip to Monaco with Brandon?" Her face went white for just a second before the defensive anger kicked in. "Who told you that? Was it Natalie? She had no right." "So it's true." Jessica bit her lip, clearly calculating her next move. "Look, I was drunk Saturday night. I didn't mean what I said the way it sounded. You know I care about you." "Which part didn't you mean?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. "The part where you said I don't match your energy, or the part where you said nice doesn't pay for a lifestyle? Because I've had time to think about both of those statements." Her expression shifted. The fake concern disappeared, replaced by the cold calculation I'd seen on the balcony. "You were eavesdropping on a private conversation. You were talking about me 10 feet away at a party in our apartment. The apartment where I pay 70% of the rent so you can invest in your career." She crossed her arms defensively. "Look, I'm sorry if your feelings were hurt, but you've been coasting for years. I'm out there building a career, making real connections, and you're just comfortable. I need more than comfortable." I nodded slowly, pulling out my phone. "Does Brandon give you more than comfortable?" Her eyes went wide. "It's not what you think. We're colleagues. Those were legitimate work trips." I opened the cloud folder and held up my phone, showing her a photo of her and Brandon in matching bathrobes, clearly in the same hotel room, clearly not working. This one was from your San Francisco client meeting in February. Should I show you the others? Jessica's face drained of color. Get out, she whispered. Actually, this is as much my apartment as it is yours. But here's what's going to happen. I kept my voice level, professional. You're going to pack whatever you need for the next few weeks and find somewhere else to stay tonight. Then we're going to figure out how to break this lease without destroying both our credit scores. And if you want to make this difficult, I can send these photos to HR at TechFlow. I looked up their employee handbook. They have very strict policies about supervisor-subordinate relationships. She stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Jessica left that night with 2 suitcases and her laptop. From what I heard through mutual friends, she went straight to Brandon's place. I changed the locks the next morning, technically against our lease agreement, but I was past caring about playing by rules that only seemed to apply to me. 2 days later, Natalie called me at work. You need to know what she's doing, she said without preamble. Jessica is telling everyone you were controlling and financially abusive. She posted this long story on her private Instagram about finally escaping a toxic relationship. I felt cold. What exactly is she claiming? That you controlled all the money, isolated her from friends, and manipulated her into staying. She's making herself out to be the victim here. People are eating it up because she's good at this narrative stuff. I asked Natalie to screenshot everything she could access. Then I called David again. He told me to stay completely silent publicly, document everything Jessica posted, and wait. Defamation cases are hard to win, he said, but if she keeps this up and it affects your professional reputation, we might have options. The key is not to engage. I didn't have to wait long. 3 days later, Jessica went public with a long, emotional social media post about finding the courage to leave and rebuilding after narcissistic abuse. She didn't name me directly, but anyone who knew us could connect the dots easily. My phone exploded with messages, friends asking if I was okay, a few people I barely knew, sending messages like, I always suspected something was off about you. I wanted to post the bank statements, the photos, the evidence. But David had been clear. Document everything, stay silent, and let her dig her own grave. The turning point came when Brandon made his fatal mistake. He commented on Jessica's public post with something supportive about being there for survivors and supporting healing journeys. Someone must have recognized his name and connected it to Jessica's workplace, because within 24 hours, someone had forwarded screenshots to TechFlow's HR department. Apparently, several people at their company had suspected the affair, but never had concrete evidence. Jessica's public victim narrative, combined with Brandon's supportive comment that established their relationship, was enough to trigger an internal investigation. The investigation took 2 weeks. During that time, I moved out of our apartment entirely, broke the lease, paid the $2,400 penalty, and found a smaller place across town. The money didn't matter anymore. I just wanted distance and a fresh start. Natalie kept me updated on the investigation's progress. HR didn't just uncover the affair. They discovered that Brandon had been approving inflated expense reports for Jessica's travel. Those romantic trips to Miami and New York. They'd been billing the company for luxury hotels and first-class flights while conducting their personal relationship on TechFlow's dime. It wasn't massive embezzlement, but it was enough to matter. Approximately $15,000 in inappropriate expenses over 9 months. They were both terminated on a Thursday afternoon. Jessica tried calling me that evening, but I didn't answer. She left a voicemail that I saved. This is all your fault. You ruined my life because you couldn't handle me being successful. I hope you're happy now. I deleted it without responding. A week later, I got a text from an unknown number. This is Brandon. We need to talk. What you did was completely out of line. I blocked him immediately and forwarded the message to David, who added it to our documentation file. About a month after everything exploded, I ran into one of Jessica's former co-workers at a coffee shop downtown. Michelle looked uncomfortable when she saw me, but she walked over anyway. Hey, she said quietly. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for believing her story without asking for your side. I shrugged. It's fine. You had no way of knowing. It's not fine, she said firmly. And you should know, she's doing the same thing to Brandon now, telling people he manipulated her into the affair because he was her boss, that she was scared to say no. She's throwing him completely under the bus to save what's left of her reputation. I wasn't surprised. Good luck to him. 3 months later, I heard through our mutual friend network that Jessica had moved back in with her parents in Ohio. Her LinkedIn showed she was exploring new opportunities, which I interpreted as having trouble finding work in the tech industry. Brandon was apparently dealing with his own fallout. His wife had left him, and he was struggling to find employment after word spread about the embezzlement and affair. As for me, I'm doing better than I have in years. I got a promotion to principal architect with a $15,000 raise. My new apartment might be smaller, but it's in a better neighborhood, and I actually like the space. I've been going to the gym regularly, reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with during my relationship with Jessica, and even went on a few dates. Most importantly, I learned to trust my instincts about people and never again subsidize someone else's ambitions at the expense of my own self-respect. Sometimes the best thing you can do when someone tells you that you're not good enough is to believe them, and then prove that you're too good for them.